This is DRF Race of the Day. Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF Race of the Day for Wednesday, May the 19th. Race number 5 at Canterbury Park. Stakes action for some of the better Minnesota breds in training. Let's take a look at the field for the 10,000 Lakes. We're going 3/4 of a mile on the main track. This race kicks off a 10% takeout in the 50-cent pick 5. Download free formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Access them, handicap along with us. Mike, the 1 Hot Shot Kid has won this race the last 2 years. The 6 Mr. Jägermeister, he won it 3 years ago, and he's been one of the better Minnesota breds for a long, long time.
Mr. Jägermeister has been very good, Dan. His recent form is not really up to par for a horse like him. So I guess the real question of this race is, can he still run, or is he vulnerable in this spot?
Been facing some good horses at Oaklawn where he usually winters, and it appears he still has his speed. Timeform US projects that Mr. Jägermeister, the number 6, will make the early lead with the 5 Drop of Golden Sun, another strong Minnesota bred close by.
Yeah, it's a pretty good field, Dan. It all comes down to Mr. Jägermeister and whether he delivers or not. He does have a lot of speed, and if he gets this kind of a trip in where he's just fastest early and gets loose, he's going to be hard to run down.
The 1 Hot Shot Kid is just a cool horse. He's won 15 of 35 lifetime starts. As I mentioned, he's won this race the last 2 years. And a similar pattern that led up to his win last year is you could see it right on the page. He prepped in his first start of the year in a race at Oaklawn. It wasn't a great effort, but he should be sharp for this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this is the race they were pointing for again, Dan, to see if he could make it 3 in a row. He was good winning this race last year. I feel like when you go back and watch the replay of this race when they ran it last year, it felt a little bit more like it was Mr. Jägermeister not really running that well than it was that this horse just ran some kind of tremendous race. And maybe that's not giving Hot Shot Kid enough credit because he's really good. But we'll see. I mean, it does feel like if Mr. Jägermeister shows up, this horse could be in trouble.
And again, take that last race at Oaklawn with a grain of salt. Most likely a prep for perennial leading trainer at Canterbury, Mac Robertson, and he was in against a good field. Not a lot of pace to set him up. The third finisher, Engage, came back to run second with a 93 buyer. Weekend Ride, the number 2, was a stakes winner sprinting at Canterbury last year against 3-year-olds, but it looks like he's found a pretty tough spot for his 4-year-old debut.
Yeah, I mean, he's just in really tough here, especially off of a layoff. And so far, and he's very lightly raced, so you don't want to give up on him too quickly. But he hasn't run a race that's going to beat this field.
Dame Plata, the number 3, was one of the better Minnesota-bred 2-year-olds in 2018, and he's continued his string of good races. Let's watch his seasonal debut. Now he's 5. This is at Will Rogers Downs, and this is a nice comeback performance. He got a nice, easy lead. He didn't have to go very fast, and he held off a horse that came back to win an allowance race with an 87 buyer. All in all, he can build off of this effort.
Yeah, he can. He ran well in this race. He ended 2020 on a pretty good run, Dan. He won those, 3 out of 4 starts there, all going longer, one of those on turf. So maybe that's more his kind of a game, but he ran well off the layoff.
If you believe the pace will be hot, keep an eye on the 4, Fireman Oscar, who always has a puncher's chance when the pace is fast from the back of the pack. Now, this horse last time out ran on turf, and the time before in the Pelican Stakes at Tampa Bay, just wasn't much closing going on in a race without much pace, and he was in against some good horses. The ill-fated Zendon, of course, came back to win the Dubai Golden Shaheen. He fits, but he needs a setup.
Yeah, he does. He faced Zendon in both of those Tampa starts earlier this year. Last time on turf, I guess you don't want to be too hard on him for that. Listen, if they go fast in front of him, and, again, there's that chance that Mr. Jägermeister is just not quite as good as he was. So even if he's on the lead, he doesn't finish. This race could come back to this horse.
Drop of Golden Sun, the number 5, has won a third of his starts, and he really blossomed when stretched out around 2 turns at Canterbury last summer, but he's also capable sprinting. Let's watch his seasonal debut at Will Rogers Downs. He caught a muddy track on this day, and he was able to get to the front, and I think he was just a little bit of a short horse, Mike. Again, I think they were preparing for this race, and all things considered, this is a useful effort, despite him losing at 1-2 against a short field.
Yeah, it was a short field. He did have a clear early lead in the race. He's just no match for this horse in the stretch, Dan. Listen, it was off of a layoff. The horse that ran him down there is actually pretty good, box seat. He came back to win again. He's run twice since going back-to-back, and he's faced really good horses. and has held his own in both of those races. So he just ran into a hot horse last time and got run over. But all in all, that performance was fine. This horse was in really good form last year.
Mr. Jägermeister, 7 for 9 lifetime at Canterbury. This is a horse, as I mentioned, he won this race in 2018. He was second to Whitmore in 2020 in the Hot Spring Stakes, a race in which he earned a 98 Beyer speed figure. Now, while Whitmore continued his 2020 and finished it off with a win in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, Mr. Jägermeister just hasn't been the same since that race.
Yeah, he hasn't. That's why I think it's a big question of, how short a price maybe you'd want to take on him in this race, Dan, because you're going back over a year now since he's run one of his really good ones. And that includes when they came up here for this race last year, Dan. He was the heaviest of favorites in there. He was clear in the stretch, and he just did not finish at all that day. And Hotshot Kid ran him down. His recent form it's not close to his best.
Cinco Star's recent form might be slightly dirtied up for Mac Robertson. They ran him over synthetic at Arlington last time out, and I'm not really thinking that's his surface. They ran him on turf 2 starts back, and he was a sharp winner with a 94 Beyer speed figure, but he's also done some good work sprinting on the dirt. That being said, Mike, I wonder if they're using this race as a prep for that 2-turn stake coming up at Canterbury on the turf. He really seems to like grass racing.
Yeah, he does. He's very good on turf. He has some dirt races. They're going to give him a chance in here too, Dan. We'll see how sharp he is off the layoff, whether, as you said, maybe they're prepping him or maybe they're bringing him back ready to run. You can see all those races, throughout last year and even the year before, Dan, where several of these horses were just a little bit better than this horse was.
Happy Hour Cowboy was a stakes winner at 2, and he returns now off of a summer layoff as a first-time gelding. As is the case with the 2 weekend ride, he's a 4-year-old. He gives up a lot of experience to some of these horses, and his buyers are a bit light.
Yeah, I mean, he just hasn't really taken a step forward. I mean, he looked like he was pretty good as a 2-year-old, Dan, but he didn't get a lot of racing in last year, and now he's off the layoff again in a pretty tough spot.
Top pick time for the Wednesday race of the day, the 10,000 Lakes. Again, we're kicking off a 10% takeout in the pick 5. You're going with Drop of Golden Sun, Mike. The 5, a horse that has a prep race already this year and has the tactical speed where he can sit relatively close.
Yeah, those were the things that I liked about him, Dan. I thought he ran fine last time off the left. I think that's a good horse to beat him. And I just don't really trust Mr. Jägermeister. I don't like his recent form, so I'm going to make him prove it to me in here.
Your point's well taken, especially at a short price. I want to use the 5 Drop of Golden Sun. I just think Mr. Jägermeister is going to appreciate getting back to the land of 10,000 Lakes. And if he can get to the lead against this group and relax a bit in the first quarter mile, maybe he could remember what he used to be. I do want to use the 4 Fireman Oscar in case this pace falls apart. 5, 6, 1, and 4 for Mike, 6, 4, 5, 7 for me for the Wednesday DRF race of the day. Good luck.